The alarm siren screamed across Outpost K-17, cutting through the cold silence of the dead moon like a wounded animal crying for help. And red warning lights flashed over steel walls as soldiers ran through narrow halls with fear in their eyes, because everyone already knew what the alarms meant, that the alien coalition had made its move at last, and this time they had not sent a fleet or an army, but something far worse, something personal. Because outside the thick glass of the command deck space burned with distant fire, while 10 dark shapes broke away from a massive alien ship and fell toward the moon like hunting spears, each one carrying a creature designed only to kill. And in the middle of all this chaos stood human cadet Aria Vance, still and quiet, her armor scratched from earlier patrols, her helmet resting under her arm, her face calm in a way that made others uneasy, because she had read the message on the main screen just like everyone else. The cold alien words translated into human language stating that 10 predators had been released, that the target was a single human cadet, and that survival chances were listed as 0. And the room filled with whispers and curses as officers realized the truth, that the enemy was not attacking the base, not trying to take land or resources, but had chosen instead to make an example, to prove to the galaxy that humans were weak when isolated. And Commander Hale, a veteran of 3 wars, turned toward Aria with a tight jaw and shaking hands and told her this was madness, that she could be evacuated, hidden, protected by walls and guns. But Aria looked at him with steady eyes and quietly said that this was exactly what the aliens wanted, that they believed humans were brave only in groups and helpless alone. And as she spoke, the outpost shook from distant impacts when the first drop pods slammed into the moon's surface far beyond the horizon, sending dust clouds into the air like gray storms. And every soldier knew the names of those predators, creatures from different worlds who had wiped out entire squads and torn through battle lines like fire through paper, beings that hunted with joy and never failed. And fear crawled through the base like a living thing. Yet Aria felt something else rising inside her, something older than fear, because she remembered Earth, remembered stories of humans surviving against nature, against beasts, against impossible odds. And she understood that the aliens had made one mistake by thinking this was a test of strength alone, because it was also a test of will. And she turned away from the command table and walked toward the airlock while soldiers watched in silence, some wanting to stop her, others unable to speak. And the loud hiss of the door opening filled the chamber as freezing air rushed in, and the smell of metal and dust filled her helmet when she sealed it over her head. And beyond the open gate the moon stretched wide and empty, a broken land of stone and shadow with no trees, no shelter, no mercy, exactly the kind of place predators loved. And in the far distance she could see the black shapes of the alien hunters emerging from their pods. Tall figures, wide beasts, fast shapes crawling low to the ground, all turning their attention toward her position as if drawn by instinct. And above them the alien ships hung silently in orbit, watching, waiting, certain that what they were about to witness would be quick and brutal. And as Aria stepped onto the moon's surface, her boots pressed into fine gray dust, and she felt the weight of isolation settle on her shoulders, knowing there would be no backup. No rescue call answered in time, only her training, her mind, and her refusal to die quietly. And she began to move, not running, not hiding yet, but walking forward with purpose, letting the predators see her, letting them believe she was already beaten, because the hunt had begun exactly as they wanted. But deep inside Aria understood something they did not, that humans had been hunted since the beginning of their history and had learned not just how to survive, but how to turn the hunt around. And as the first alien roars echoed across the moon and shadows stretched long under the rising light of a distant star, the stage was set for a battle that would change how the galaxy looked at humanity forever. The hunt began in full force as Arya Vance faced the first of the alien predators. A tall and thin figure draped in black armor that seemed to drink in the faint moonlight, its green eyes glowing like hunting torches. And she felt its presence before she saw it, a silent, deadly shadow moving across the cracked gray surface toward her. And when it struck, her instincts took over, rolling aside just in time as the sharp blade tore into the stone beside her with a flash of sparks. While the creature laughed in a sound so cruel and unnatural it made her skin crawl, but she did not falter, drawing her sidearm and firing rounds that struck the predator's armor, slowing it enough for her to flee, knowing that her survival depended not on strength but on speed, cunning, and understanding her enemy's mind. And she led it across the moon's open ground, luring it toward a narrow ravine she had scouted earlier, and at the perfect moment she triggered a hidden explosive charge that engulfed the creature in flames. The first of 10 predators to fall, a moment of small but powerful victory that gave her confidence and sharpened her focus. Because the danger was far from over. The second and third predators, larger and stronger, appeared together, moving like living tanks, muscles and armor rippling as they advanced, firing plasma that seared the ground and threw up clouds of smoke and stone. And Arya, injured from a grazing hit, pushed through pain and fear, using every scrap of her training and the terrain to stay alive, ducking behind jagged rocks, jumping across crumbling ridges, and leading the creatures toward an abandoned mining pit, a trap she had prepared with cables and explosives. And with precise timing she used a cable to swing over their attacks as the pit collapsed behind her, sending 2 massive predators tumbling into the dark abyss. Another victory, but each step cost her energy. Her armor cracked, and blood seeped through her suit, a reminder that she was human, vulnerable, and alone. Yet that knowledge only made her sharper, because she could think faster, move faster, and anticipate the creature's brutal logic in ways the predators could not understand. As the hunt continued, the remaining predators learned to work together, spreading out across the barren moon, cutting off escape routes, and surrounding her with the cunning of apex hunters. Each movement calculated, each claw and blade ready to strike. And Arya realized she could not outrun them forever, that sheer physical effort would fail. So she adapted, using smoke, shadows, and debris to confuse their senses, exploiting their pride and overconfidence, and letting one believe it had cornered her before turning its own momentum against it, overloading its power core in a blinding flash of fire that left nothing but charred metal. And in another instance she lured a massive predator into a field of orbiting satellite wreckage, cutting its tether and watching it drift silently into the black void of space, gone forever. A finality the predators had never experienced because they were hunters used to claiming life, not losing it. Each predator that fell taught her more about the patterns, the instincts, and the weaknesses of her enemies. And by the time the artificial sun of the moon's orbit began to rise, painting the gray landscape with pale light, only silence remained, broken by the faint sound of her own breathing and the soft crunch of dust under her boots. The once thriving army of alien predators reduced to nothing, a testament to human ingenuity and endurance, to the ability to turn fear into strategy, and weakness into advantage. And though her body ached, every muscle screaming in pain, every joint stiff, and every cut burning in her veins, she felt a strange surge of triumph, because she had survived where none were supposed to, proving not just to the aliens but to herself that the human spirit could endure against unimaginable odds. And as she looked across the cratered plains where her enemies had fallen, she understood something profound. The predators were strong, fast, and deadly, but they lacked something essential that humans carried in abundance: creativity, courage, and a willingness to face the impossible without surrendering. And this realization filled her with renewed determination as she prepared for what would come next, knowing that the final predator, the last of 10, awaited her somewhere in the shadows, but that her mind and skill had become sharper with each encounter, turning her into a weapon in her own right, one built not from alien design but from the relentless drive and adaptability that defined humanity. And as the cold wind of the moon brushed against her faceplate and she scanned the horizon for movement, Arya Vance understood clearly that she was no longer just a cadet or a target. She was a survivor, a hunter in her own right, and that the coming confrontation with the last predator would not be a battle of mere strength, but a test of wits, courage, and the indomitable human will, a truth that would echo through her veins and steel her mind for the final confrontation that would decide not just her survival, but the message she would send to the galaxy that humans, though alone and outnumbered, could face any horror, endure any trial, and emerge victorious. A lesson the alien coalition would never forget. After the long, brutal hunt, Arya Vance found herself standing alone on the gray, battered surface of the moon, her body aching, her armor cracked, and every breath inside her helmet a reminder of the battle she had survived, while above her the alien coalition ship hovered silently in orbit, its commanders watching through vast observation screens, expecting to see a broken, defeated human, a body that would confirm their assumption that humans could not survive against 10 apex predators. And yet, as the shuttle she had piloted slowly lifted from the moon's surface, engines sputtering and metal groaning under the strain, the aliens realized too late that their expectations were about to be shattered because instead of a limp figure, they saw a human standing tall, injured but alive, embodying the impossible, and behind her, floating in the shuttle's cargo hold, were the 10 skulls of the alien predators she had fought and defeated, each one marked with the scars of battle, showing clearly where her traps, weapons, and tactics had brought them down, proof of a feat no other human had ever achieved and a declaration of the cunning and resilience that humanity carried into the stars. And as the shuttle docked at the outpost, airlocks opening with a hiss, the room fell silent. Every officer and soldier staring in disbelief, the weight of what they were witnessing pressing down like the gravity of an unseen planet, because no report, no training manual, no story could have prepared them for the sight of one human cadet returning alone with 10 alien predators killed, defeated and displayed as a warning, and Arya stepped out slowly, her movements careful but confident, each step carrying the weight of exhaustion, pain, and triumph. While medics and engineers rushed forward to assist her, awe and disbelief written on every face, as she allowed the skulls to drift toward the observation chamber of the alien command ship, the silent, heavy proof that the hunt had failed, that humans could not only survive the impossible, but also turn the hunters into trophies. And when she spoke, her voice calm and clear through the speakers that carried her words across the void, the room went still, the sound of her voice filling the space where terror had once existed, telling the alien leaders that they had underestimated humanity, that they had sent 10 predators thinking they could break one human. And yet here she stood, alive, victorious, and unbroken, delivering a message no fleet, no weapon, no alliance could have conveyed in any other way. And as the alien ships began to withdraw, slow and hesitant, one by one, retreating from human-controlled space in fear and disbelief, the soldiers at Outpost K-17 watched in awe, the horror of the aliens replaced by a newfound respect and understanding of human power. And even Commander Halle, who had worried for every step of her journey, whispered softly that she had done the impossible, that she had achieved what no training, no army, and no equipment could have guaranteed, because it was not just skill, not just courage, that had saved her, but the human spirit itself, unyielding, inventive, and relentless in the face of death. And as Arya finally removed her helmet, revealing a pale but determined face marked with cuts, bruises, and the exhaustion of battle, the cadets and soldiers around her felt a surge of pride and inspiration, understanding that this single human had proven that humanity was not merely another species in the galaxy to be hunted or underestimated, but a force that could face overwhelming odds, fight with intelligence, bravery, and cunning, and return stronger and wiser. And as she smiled faintly, tired but real, she spoke words that would echo through human ranks and across the stars. A simple declaration that humans did not kill for sport or for glory, but for survival and protection, a warning to any who might think humans weak or easily conquered. And in that moment, the lesson of Arya Vance, the cadet who had faced 10 alien predators alone and returned victorious, became more than just a story of survival. It became a legend, a statement of human resilience, ingenuity, and determination, a reminder that humans could endure, adapt, and triumph where others would fail. And that from that day forward, across planets and star systems, the name of a single human cadet would carry weight, respect, and fear, because she had shown that even when alone, even when hunted, even when surrounded by death and impossible odds, a human could stand tall, face the darkness, and return victorious, leaving behind a legacy that would inspire generations, shape strategies, and change the galaxy's understanding of humanity forever. And as the sun rose over the gray horizon of the moon, casting long shadows across the craters and debris of the battlefield, Arya Vance walked back into the outpost, her steps heavy with pain but light with purpose. Her story now etched into the memory of every human who watched her return, proving that humans were not to be underestimated, that when pressed, cornered, or hunted, they could become unstoppable, and that even in the cold vastness of space, one determined human could turn fear into victory, weakness into strength, and send a message louder than any weapon, that humans, though few, though fragile, though alone, could survive, could fight back, and could triumph against the greatest hunters the galaxy had ever known, leaving a mark on the universe that would never be forgotten.